Here's a particular news source, something that went down some time ago in Boston. It has to do with gun confiscation. That actually flew up under the radar. That it actually, at least far as I'm concerned, it wasn't out there in the media enough for it to grab national attention. And I'm going to include, the article below so that you can be able to understand exactly what's going on. 72 killed resisting gun confiscation in Boston, December 6, 2013. Listen to what it says. Boston National Guard units seeking to confiscate a cache of recently banned assault weapons were ambushed by elements of a paramilitary extremist faction. Man, how they word these. Woo! Military and law enforcement sources estimated that 72 were killed and more than 200 injured before government forces were compelled to withdraw. That's somebody, to me, actually defending their right to keep and bear arms. Speaking after the clash, Massachusetts Governor Thomas Gage declared that the extremist faction, why are they considered an extremist faction? Listen to these words, though, that are there to alter and change your mind and conscience. Listen to the words. Why are they extremist faction, since according to the Constitution, if there is a such thing as a Constitution, is it for the people or we the people? Or by the people, excuse me. I mean, the Constitution clearly says that a man has a right to keep and to bear arms. So why all this regulation, and then these people use the government, use these terms? See, the government job is, and I know I'm interrupting this article here, but I can't help it. The government job is to disarm the citizens and the population, kind of like they did back in the days of the Russians. The Germans. You remember they took a census, and that census was to actually, number one, let you know who everybody was, and then the registration was actually used to tell the government who actually possesses and keeps firearms, so that they'll know exactly which one to go. Because when the government moves in on people, they move in with an extraordinary force. And it's by the time they come in, we the people, because we're so far away from each other and so divided, there's no way we can defend ourselves from tyranny. According to the Constitution, if you read it carefully, and even when you sign up for the military to join, you're supposed to defend yourself from all enemies, foreign and domestics. And whoever told you that government cannot be an enemy? Think about that. Just because somebody passed a law, does that mean it's righteous and it's to be obeyed? What about if a law is passed and it's unlawful? It opposes and it infringes upon your right. When you're going to start using your mind? You see, they have done an excellent job at dividing us as a people, that there's no unity whatsoever at all. And the only unity that this type of system is going to accept is when you agree with everything that they say plus nothing, and you personally have no resistance whatsoever at all. They restrict your ability to resist, your ability to even speak out, and your ability to even say something. But let me get back here to this article, because I get stirred up over stuff like this, because I understand the mind altering that they're doing. Anyway, let me pick up in the second paragraph where I left off at. Speaking after the clash, Massachusetts Governor Thomas Gage declared that the extremist faction was made up of local citizens, has links to radical right-wing tax protest movement. Well, we need to ask ourselves a question. Is the IRS really, truly a legit government entity? Is it? Let's just ask ourselves that question. Most people just go ahead and just do. Just submit to it. But is it really? Almost 99% of Americans have no idea what's going on right up under their nose. Let's go on. Gage blamed the extremists for recent incidents of vandalism directed against the Internal Revenue officers. The governor, who described the group's organizers as criminals, issued an executive order authorizing the summary arrest of an individual who has interfered with the government efforts to secure law and order. Let me teach you people something. Whether you be in law enforcement or a regular citizen in this country right here, these people who set up in these sealed homes and sealed houses, they pass laws, but they're not the ones that have to get out there and get boots on the ground to enforce these unlawful laws that they pass. It's you people out there who are struggling because you want a paycheck, or you believe, or you've been convinced some way, somehow that you're so-called doing the right thing. It's obvious we don't have a thinking society, and that's just the truth. But these powers that be, that in these powers of influence, they put you in harm's way, and you're going to meet resistance. Somebody is going to put up resistance against tyranny. It's obvious, and of course now we live in a time when people have nothing to lose. So when they have nothing to lose, what do? They lose it. It's obvious that this country does not want an independent thinking people. They want total submission and compliance with whatever they say and tell you to do. I wonder if America will ever be on the same sheet of music. I don't think it's ever going to happen. Hey, is it not amazing how veterans like me, war veterans that come back from a combat zone, the first thing they do is try to tell you that you're some type of fanatic, mentally insane, chaotically a gun bunny that need to be regulated, and so therefore you are fit to go in battle to so-called defend the interests of this country against terrorists, foreign. But when you come back on this land, all of a sudden you are unfit to be able to defend yourself, much less to even carry a gun, because you become a threat to the American citizens. And now we have the veterans regulated more than anything. As a matter of fact, they even make it so that you can't even obtain a gun license if you wanted to play the lawful order of laws today. Of course, government always got it, they got it figured out according to history. I mean, don't you know that this government they refused after World War II to even pay the veterans? The veterans went to Washington, D.C. You know what the government did? They shot and killed them because the veterans were demanding pay. You won't believe. Most of us don't know history. And when you don't know history, you're destined to repeat the same mistakes of the past. And when you hear somebody like me talking, I'm so radical to your virgin ears. I'm so extreme to your virgin ears that all I'm doing is echoing and repeating the same things of the past. How stupid and how idiotic and dumb can we be? I teach and preach over and over again that some of the most dangerous people in the world are the ignorant people, who all they want to do is live life just for their lust. The lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes, the pride of life. And that's it. That's what the whole universe is around. It's about me, myself, and I. Me, center of attention, myself and I. And the whole world exists to make sure that my world functions the way I want to, because I believe myself to be some type of demagogue or something. Man, what a sick people we've become today. It's a sad, sad thing. The military raid on the extremist arsenal followed by a widespread refusal of the local citizenry to turn over recent outlawed assault weapons. Well, let's dissect this sentence for a second. Let's dissect this sentence. The military raid on the extremist arsenal followed widespread refusal. Again, let me try to put you in memory and stir up your pure conscience if there's anything pure about it. The Supreme Court is not, and I say again, and that's the reason why I'm hitting that first, the authority and the supreme lawmakers of the land. No, it is the people. These people passed an unlawful law. The government did here in Boston. The people refused to comply. So they had a firefight to determine who was right and who was wrong. And according to this article, it looks like the citizens won. Did people die? Yes, they did. Were people injured? Yes, they were. But in this particular case, and it's amazing how the federal government has not stepped in to this local government's business in this case, from what I can ascertain thus far. But the citizens said, we're not putting up with this. We don't like these unlawful laws that is going to restrict us and cause something to... Wait a minute. If the government can possess it, you can possess it. How is it that the government can have these so-called quote-unquote illegal assault weapons, but then you can't have them? And these people wasn't playing the game just because they passed a law that the people did not elect them to pass, nor did they say that they could. They did not give them the approval, because the people is the highest authority in the land. And when we get together collectively as a people, you have to understand, there are 360 million allegedly so-called Americans in this country. Yeah, I'm going to say the things that people don't like hearing. There's not enough law enforcement, neither is there enough military if the people get together collectively. Can they nuke the hell out of us? Sure they can. Can they drone the hell out of us? Sure they can. Why do you think they're practicing on the Arabs and the people up there and the Afghanis up there now? I mean, come on. Look at 911. All these laws, were they really truly passed for terrorists? Or do we have an extreme divide in this country, the government against the people who the government themselves have made the people their enemy? It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, I think differently because I see clearly. And until I can see somebody in so-called a government job or official that can actually change my mind and perspective from the way that I clearly see things going on, I'm going to continue on with my same perspective, opinions, and viewpoints and do everything I can to protect myself and those who I love. And I think that you do well to adopt the same position. Let's just face it, these people, government, they can't produce anything. They can only take from you. And you need to understand and listen to me very carefully and very well. You need to learn how to develop a tight 360 around your perimeter and learn how to guard yourself and train and teach those that are adjacent to you. You need to, I'm telling you, because that's the way things are going down here. When government fears the people, that's when you can have a constitutional order in this country that's actually going to function right. But when people fear the government, you have nothing but tyranny. And that's why the people today, when you look into their eyes and stare up in their eyes, they're nothing but lifeless and soulless individuals, just functioning on GMO modified foods. High fructose corn syrup is just a shame. Let me stop this phone for a second and finish this video. So the people refused to submit to this order. That's what they did. And they wasn't going to turn in their so-called allegedly assault weapons. So they resisted, according to their constitutional right. Gage issued a ban on the military-style assault weapons and ammunition earlier this week. This decision followed a meeting earlier this month. Hold on a second. Could y'all hold on for a second and call me back when I get finished doing this video? Give me 5 minutes. Gage issued a ban on military-style assault weapons and ammunition earlier this week. This decision followed a meeting earlier this month between government and military leaders at which the governor authorized the forcible confiscation of illegal arms. So now you have the government turning on its own citizenry. I tell you. Am I living in a land of make-believe or what? Let me get back to this. One government official speaking on the condition of anatomy pointed out that none of these people would have been killed had the extremists obeyed the law. You mean had the extremists obeyed an unlawful law and turned over their weapons voluntarily? Yeah, that's what they want you to do. I'll tell you what, government, how about you turn over the weapons voluntarily? Government troops initially succeeded in confiscating a large supply of outlawed weapons and ammunition. However, troops attempting to seize arms and ammunition in Lexington met with resistance from heavily armed extremists. Why are they calling, it's amazing the type of tags that the government put on us as the people. Extremists, vigilantes, all kind of crazy stuff when we are actually doing what the right that is afforded to us simply because we live and breathe. Anyway, let me try. I'm going to try my best to finish this article without interrupting, but it's becoming very difficult because I know that many of you, especially listening audience out there, have little, if any, education whatsoever at all to know how things really, truly supposed to operate. And that's why I keep interrupting, and I'm sorry. You're just going to have to forgive me. Extremists who had tipped off regarding the government plans. During the intense standoff in Lexington Town Park, National Guard Colonel Francis Smith, commander of the government operation, ordered the armed group to surrender and return to their homes. The impasse was broken by a single shot, which was reportedly fired by one of the right-wing extremists. Now, we don't know that to be true because they are the ones who's controlling this report right here. 8 civilians were killed in the ensuing exchange. Ironically, the local citizens blamed government forces rather than extremists for the civilians' death. And they are right, too. Before the order could be restored, armed citizens from surrounding areas had descended upon the guard units. Colonel Smith found his forces overmatched by the armed mob. Now notice, look, now the citizens are called the armed mob. Ordered to retreat. Governor Gage has called upon citizens to support the state national joint task force in his effort to restore law and order. Law and order would have never broken down if you didn't pass unlawful laws that would stir up these law-abiding citizens to take the action that they needed to protect themselves from you. The government also demanded the surrender of those responsible for planning and leading the attack against the government troops. Samuel Adams, Paul Revere, John Hancock, who have been identified as ringleaders of the extremist faction, remain at large. Check out the names that they call these people. They actually named themselves after the drafters of the Constitution of the United States of America. And this fellow American is how the American Revolution began, April 20th, 1775. On July 4th, these same extremists signed the Declaration of Independence, pledging to each other, July 4th, 1776. The same extremists signed the Declaration of Independence, pledging each other that their countrymen and their lives, fortune, and their sacred honor, many of them lost everything, including their families and their lives, over the course of the next few years, lest we forget. Well, the truth is, America is all but forgot. When you deal with the TV program or the television that has programmed you very well, just like people do a computer. Hope you learned something. Hope you got educated. Am I against government? No, not when it's in its rightful order and stuff, because government, according to my understanding, they are there to ensure the right of the people to actually have life, liberty, and to pursue happiness. You deserve the truth straight way. Boy, I can tell you one thing. I know this is going to stir up a lot of people. It's just the truth. My name is Pastor Dowells.